and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence,
And I'm Meg Hofdahl.
and today we're talking about Us. Now, this will be a spoiler filled review. Right off the bat, though, if you started to listen and you're like, oh, wait, I haven't seen it yet, know that we highly recommend it. And so go see it. But we are definitely going to talk about spoilers.
Yeah, don't listen to this if you haven't seen it yet.
It's so nice to go into a movie not knowing anything, and I kept trying to not even look at trailers after that first one came out because I didn't want to know. I didn't want to get any hints. I wanted to go in completely as blind as possible.
Yeah, same thing. And I think they did pretty well with the trailers, actually not revealing too much. I mean, we knew that the assailants were going to look like the main characters, but otherwise I felt like even the marketing did a pretty good job of not like exposing us to too much.
No, it was so great. Can you tell us a few facts about the movie?
Sure. So, of course, it's directed, written, and produced by Jordan Peele. This is his second horror movie after Get Out. It's starring Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Elizabeth Moss. It sounds like it's been doing really well in the box office. It's grossed 86 million worldwide so far, which is a lot for a little horror movie.
I read this morning on Twitter that it broke Friday box office records, or I think it was 29.1 million for Friday opening in March, or for a horror movie or something.
That's awesome. So, it's Jason Blum produced as well, and it is 94% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which, for as we all know, for a horror movie is not easy to do.
It's funny because some people were they took screenshots of the negative reviews, and some of them you could just tell were written by bots or something. It was like nonsensical words in orders that didn't make sense, and it was like, okay, if you really are reviewing this movie and you said that, you really have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, and it's hard for me to picture how you could go to this movie and give it a bad review, but sometimes it's hard to like stand outside yourself and be like, how can anybody not like this? Because this is the reason I love horror. This movie, it defines and shows all the reasons why I love this genre, and I'm excited to be a small part of it because, oh my God, I could go on and on forever.
So yes, it's so good. Now, there was a list of movies, and this article had come out, and I was like, ooh, I don't want to know too much, but there was a list of movies that Jordan Peele had his cast watch, that he wanted them to be familiar with, so that when he was directing them, he could refer to scenes or moments, and they would understand what he was talking about. And one of the movies was The Birds, and I definitely saw some of the Birds references. He also mentioned Chud in that article, and they had a Chud VHS in the shot in the very first scene. And so the subterranean creatures, I thought that was lovely, and nice little horror references throughout.
Oh yeah, you know what it made me think of? Downs in the at the point of the climax when she goes downstairs, it made me think of Phantasm, like sort of this like hidden place beneath sort of this edifice of a fun house, and even the look of like the tile floor and everything, like I was like, oh, it just thought it made me think of Phantasm. So I feel like there are so many elements in it that were a nod. And that's a really good idea for a director to be like, watch these movies so I can reference the scene so you know. I think that's a great idea.
It is. It's so smart. So, starting off, this is a great family that's established. I love the characters. This little backstory of what happened in 1986 and what was going on in the world, and we're just getting little hints, little peeks into this backstory, but we keep getting the flashbacks throughout the movie. And then that first creepy moment of just seeing these four people standing holding hands in the yard. I have chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who writes horror, I was like, okay, what I need to remember from watching this movie is the subtleties that are scary. And it's that, I'm always saying, but it's hard to remember this when I'm writing, is it's those things that are just left of center. And there's something about a family standing in your driveway, holding hands and not moving and being silent. if you describe it, it doesn't even sound that scary, but when you see it, it's like, holy shit, that's terrifying. And might I add, I really appreciated that this was centered around a nuclear African American family. I feel like that's not something I see very often on screen.
And I remember reading an article Jordan Peele said, like he loved films like Poltergeist, but it's this white American family and a functional family and just, showing how they are functional but dysfunctional, and he just wanted to do that with a horror movie with a black family, and it's like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did it. So yeah, and it was so strange because I was like, I was thinking about all the horror movies like that where it's centered around a family, which I really enjoyed that aspect of this movie. Of course, I love female-driven horror, and this is, but it also had that element of the kids being involved and the dad being involved and like fighting as a family. And yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anyone non-white do that.
Yeah. Okay, so they're standing in the yard. The mother makes a chattering noise and then they scatter in not okay ways. I was like, holy crap, I am so ready for this.
Yeah, it was great. Everybody in the theater kind of like made a sound and it was like, okay, it's on. And it was nice because the way the movie's kind of structured is it feels like this is going to be the climax. And so it's happening so soon. That second act of the movie just comes on real quick and you're like, holy crap, like we're in it now. And in a more typical movie that would be the end.
Yeah, you'd be like boarding up the house and like trying to keep them out, but they're just in. They're in it.
Yeah, it's like, okay. And then I think the moment that this opened up and sort of flowered open into masterpiece horror territory for me, well, the third act I think is really important for that. But when Red, her, well, I guess I'd say tethered person, starts talking, and then we realize, okay, this is beyond just, some people that look like you in your house.
Oh my gosh, it's so creepy, and like the ultimate reveal, and I realize I'm skipping to the end, but the ultimate reveal and seeing these people underground mimicking the people above, I will forever be changed from that sequence.
Well, what I was saying is why I love something like that so much and why I love horror is because this whole idea that we have these people underground that are like mimicking our movements and are tethered to us, that's something I've never thought of before. And this is why I love storytelling, I love literature, and not just horror, but particularly I like the horror elements of thought. But it's stretching your understanding of the world and the universe and being presented with an idea that you never thought of before. And when they showed the tethered below mimicking those movements in a really gross and unsettling way, it's like another part of my mind opened up, and I as a creative person felt really creative and want to push those boundaries, and like Jordan Peele just gets it, you know?
Oh my gosh, yes. So this whole story, they did such a good job of setting up this family, setting up their personalities, looking back to these flashbacks, and we know why she's so uncomfortable because of this creepy exchange, but we don't understand the scope of it until the very, very last scene of the movie, which is insane that they kept it until then, which is great. Like we didn't even know until the last moment. So I applaud him for that unveiling.
And I think that it's really important that they did that particular twist because, and I got the opportunity to watch this movie twice, which was really cool because um, I feel like I got to just appreciate certain things more the second time. But I think it's really important that they did that twist because the whole point, I feel, that Jordan Peele was trying to make was that the people below were just as human as the people above, and that there really is no difference other than the lot they were given in life. Because I think it was obviously an allegory about, or a sort of metaphor for the have and the have-nots, and people who are in the have category begin to lessen the humanity of people that are in the have not category. But by giving this twist and saying, no, she actually is one of these people, but she's been this kind mother all along, and she's been this great wife, and this human and this woman that we've been championing this whole time, it makes us realize that the only difference is whether we're above the escalator or below, and we don't have a choice in the matter.
Yes, and then our perception of those two places or those two kinds of people, like, holy crap, good job, Jordan Peele. I mean, just to bring us there. And speaking of the haves, they set up their friend family with the twin girls and Elizabeth Moss and her husband. They were just awful people, and they died immediately. Like, they did not drag out this torture or like give them a bunch of dialogue. They were just dead.
That was so great. I was like, when we meet that family, I was like, oh, I cannot wait to watch them die. So that was really fun, and it kind of too was like, we're not gonna give any more screen time to these awful people. Like, we're just gonna kill them and focus in on our family. So, I love this movie so much. Again, this is why I love horror so much, and like I will watch Jordan Peele direct people. I mean, I guess the old saying is read the phone book. I don't know. He gets exactly why I love horror, what I'm looking for. Like I said when we came out of the movie, the climax of this movie, I almost cried because it was so beautiful because of the music, first of all, in this movie is amazing. But he has such a visual sense, which is something that I am not particularly like good at in creative. I'm a writer. I don't know anything about directing, but all I know is it brings emotions to me. It's sort of like Hereditary, where I just feel so strongly, and the second time I was so moved, and I just Kelly, I loved it so much.
I know, I loved it too. And can we talk about the acting for a minute? Every single person was playing two parts that were very different. And these people were amazing. Like the daughter and just the writing, how he gave all these little references, not necessarily even subtle, but like he talked about the family was talking about track and like you need to run. And then she ended up having to run for her life. And that girl playing her alter ego or the person below, so subtle and so great. The little boy with his magic trick and the closet and his burned other, like, holy crap. And Winston Duke and his alter person, just the grunting noises. And oh, and you mentioned like you realized, in your second viewing why Lupita Nyong'o, her character was able to speak and no one else was.
The voiceless. He does such a good job of, like, again, putting his point across. The people down below don't have a voice. The escalator only goes down, it doesn't go up. There's a mention of O.J. Simpson, which I think is completely an that was not a mistake or just a joke. Because that's literally, that whole situation is about class and have and have not. And so everything he does, and like you were saying, visually, which I didn't notice as much, but there were two of everything, and there was a lot of spider imagery. There was just so much going on.
There's so many parallels and like parallels visually, of course, but then also the above and below. So the Thriller T-shirt was a nice little horror reference, and I just texted Meg like a few days ago before we saw this movie. I was like, "Aw, like little first grade Kelly, clutching her VHS of Night of the Living Dead and rewatching the making of Thriller taped off TV would be really proud of where we are right now in life or whatever." And then there was the Thriller T-shirt. Okay, but speaking of which, that last sequence when the dad is like turns around and offers the shirt and it's a little bit off, the underground version, Meg mimicked that moment and I jumped out of my skin, and she did it to me again and I jumped. It's so scary.
It's so scary. I pretended to be the creepy dad, like offering the T-shirt, and it was so wrong, and it's just like, oh my God. But that's what I'm saying, is just I love stretching like our thoughts and like thinking about these things and thinking about down below us right now, what's going on, and like, do we have these alters that are pretending to podcast right now? It's just cool to think about.
Ew. And they're eating rabbits because that's all they
Yeah.
have. So right at the top of the movie, they talk about the subterranean below us, and we actually have a chapter on this in our upcoming book coming out in October about it ties into the our chapter on the descent, but people who live underground and live in these abandoned subway stations or tunnels or caves, and that is so great for horror. Like just it just gets me thinking. This whole movie and these concepts, it's like exercised my brain. It's like I've grown some muscles.
Exactly. It's such an intellectual exercise. Like you could watch this movie very surface level and just be like, that was scary, and it was. But I am so appreciative of the
And that's funny, surface level, you're making puns.
yeah, I didn't even know it. But yeah, this idea that there's so much to think about and to explore. And I mean, if you're looking for a term paper to write, definitely write about the haves and the have-nots in this movie because there's so many points you could make. It's such a good movie, and I don't know. I went in with pretty high expectations, but I still loved it anyway, so that says a lot.
The other thing I want to mention is the writing of Lupita Nyong'o's character and characters. She's such a strong, badass woman. And of course, we're rooting for her the whole time. She can handle stuff and she gets it done. Like the husband is even let mom take care of it or mom knows what to do. And we've been she's been our champion, and yet the twist at the end we're like, "Oh shit, we've been rooting for the bad guy the whole time." But is she the bad guy? Like, oh,
That's the thing. It's like, is she the bad guy? Because I don't know if I was down there, and that again, that comes into a whole like sociological question, and it's like if you have the chance to climb up on top and be on top, I don't know, would anybody make a different decision? And she decided to come on top and be a mother and live out that life. I don't know. I don't know. Is she a bad guy? That's another good term paper, you guys. We're just handing this to you.
oh. And okay, so it's scary, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's beautiful visually and musically. Like I just can't get over it, Meg.
I know, I can't either. I was thinking about when you have the first scene um and then it cuts to the credits, and the credits have this haunting like chant kind of like music, a lot like the Get Out credits. And I love how he takes his time and he's like, we're gonna look at this wall of bunny rabbits and you're gonna listen to this music, and it's very like 80s horror. And you just know you are about to have a really good time at the movies. So I would suggest, hopefully, if you've listened to all this, you have seen it, but I'd say go see it again because the second time I almost enjoyed it more because I knew it was coming, and I got to just think about this world in a whole new way. So watch it multiple times.
Let's rank this movie on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being you think it's a perfect movie. What's our scale? I have several things in my mind. The gold scissors, of course, or a rabbit, or Thriller t-shirts. Do you have a favorite image or thing to rank on?
Well, since Michael Jackson's not in good favor right now, I'll say gold scissors.
Okay, yes. So, 0 to 10. Would you rank this movie?
I give it 10 gold scissors because it emotionally affected me, it mentally affected me, it it hit all the points I need a horror movie to hit.
Absolutely. I give it 10 out of 10 gold scissors. Perfection. It had a lot to live up to expectation wise and buzz wise and just, everything wise. But my God, he delivered, and what a stellar movie.
And it's making me so excited for the Twilight Zone, in which we're going to be doing every episode of the Twilight Zone. We're going to be giving our thoughts on, because I mean, obviously.
Like, we are so excited. We love it. We love Jordan Peele. Thank you, Jordan Peele, for this. Like, we keep saying we're either having a shared fever dream or we're in a coma where like our brains are connected, because why is all this good stuff happening to us? We don't even deserve it. And I just heard the Dark Tower series is now getting, like, it just got cast to be on Amazon. Like, what is this life?
I know. I mean, we're definitely not below. We're definitely on top. That's for sure.
I'm sorry. Sorry, tethered people. Oh gosh. What?
No, I'm just thinking, what if like tethered people could listen to our podcast? Yeah.
I'm like trying to clack or click or whatever. Oh God. Okay. Now you've got me scared again, Meg. I'm scared. Okay, listen, everybody, go see Us again if you haven't. If you heard all these spoilers, I bet you'll still enjoy it. But tune in as we talk about more new horror and old horror. And until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Bye.